So back in 2013, I started my very first business. I quit my job that I just could not stand anymore because of the people in it and because of the way they operated. It didn't give me a fire and it didn't give me purpose. So I quit and I pursued my side hustle, which was fitness training. I was running a boot camp and doing PTs. The first 3 months, I had absolutely zero money. I didn't even have a car. But what I did have was huge hopes, huge dreams, and huge aspirations to make something of myself after leaving the military. I had very limited options to be able to make a fitness class work. But what I did do is I invested in my first piece of kit, which was a Davina McCall kettlebell set. This cost £9.99 and it gave me an 8, 5, and 3 kilogram kettlebell, which I put into my backpack with some other bits and pieces that I found and mustered together. I used to put it on my back and cycle 2 miles down to the rec to lay out and wait for people to show up for me to take a class. And that was the very start of something that I now today call a mission. I didn't have a business plan, I didn't have a strategy, I didn't have a brand, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know anything about marketing or sales. I just loaded up those kettlebells in my backpack, got on my bike and hitched it down to the rec, where sometimes nobody would show up. I'd literally had set everything out, ready to go, and I sat there and waited 10 minutes past 9, hoping that someone would show up. And I remember that happening for at least 3 weeks. There were times when I actually was just in complete despair, when I would just sit on the bench and cry and think, what am I doing? Where am I going? Is this really worth it? Because if there is no clients, then there is no money, then there is no mortgage payments being made. But I kept on showing up, and it was for nothing other than dogged determination to prove that I could make it work. I had no choice but to make it work, because if it didn't work, I was going to end up not being able to provide for my 2 children, not being able to have a roof over my head, and not being able to eat. So at this point, the only way was up. And I had to show character and resilience. I had to really go back to my mentality that I had when I joined the Royal Marines. I had to have a strong work ethic. I had to have some hope. I had to believe in myself. I had to show some grit and resilience to be able to get to the next stage and make this work. During this time, I was super scared. I was really uncertain. There were many tears, many emotional dips, and massive amounts of anxiety about where I was going to go and what would happen to me as a guy, as a father, as a businessman in the next stage of my life. The key thing to understand here is that I wasn't just trying to build a business. I was trying to rebuild myself as a man. I had lost 3 years of my life after leaving the Royal Marines, where I had no purpose, no direction, and didn't know where I was going. I was post 8 months of a suicide attempt. I'd overcome drinking too much, I'd overcome a divorce, I overcome the guilt that I felt for not showing up for my family at the time. And I had to find something deep down to rebuild my life and get it off the ground. Otherwise, I was going to be in a real bad situation. Over 3 weeks, every now and then I'd have 1 or 2 people showing up, but nothing substantial. And I was plugging away at Facebook, posting, doing what I thought was right within the marketing. And I woke up on a Monday morning and there were 6 people there ready to train. I literally remember the feeling like it was yesterday. I had these goose pimples. My heart was pumping. I felt so amazing to see 6 people ready to go, ready to train with me. After weeks of not seeing hardly anybody and feeling like I was a failure, this felt like a huge win. I did something that I had watched on a YouTube video, and I offered every 6 members the session for free and 2 weeks worth of free sessions if they brought a friend with them. When I arrived on the Friday, there were then 11 new customers. 5 of the guys had managed to bring their friends after the school run, and that's where the journey really began. The fire was always there, the edge, the determination, the resilience, the hope, but I was just running out of oxygen because I felt like I was drowning. And this was the boost, the rocket fuel that I needed. And through this turning point, what I started to realize was I wasn't just training people, getting them fit, making their lives better. I was building an identity within myself that I hadn't seen in years before I joined the Marines. It was a different identity from the man who was in the Marines, and I was evolving as an identity from the man that left the Marines. I was resilient, I was relentless, two key attributes that I hadn't seen for a very long time. I built up this deep love for the grind, for the hustle, something that many people don't experience. Fast forward on 12 years, and people quite often see our business in the way that we've built our brand and our reputation over the years. Building the best-selling books, building the podcast, building the programs, the clothing, the seminars. Everything that we've done has all stemmed from those early days of just never giving up and showing up. None of this today would have shown up if I had quit. The number of times that I cycled home and I felt so depressed, so low, where there was just a real lack of hope and where there was a real lack of self-belief and desire, was slowly leaking from my life. I didn't quite realize what I was doing at the time was building a layer of foundation, something you can't buy, something you can't get from the shops or anywhere else. It's something that is forged through action. Because no matter whether it is 2013 or 2025, we still face hardships in our business, in our leadership roles, in our families, in our health. But how we show up creates the man. How resilient we become, how relentless we are. That is the character that builds the foundations of your success. You earn that when you show up and things aren't going your way. When you show up and things haven't been built yet, when you continue to figure it out and keep working it out and never stop that process or that journey. So if you're a leader, a high performer, a business owner, and you're stuck, maybe the business has stalled, maybe you're not getting the best out of yourself in your leadership role, maybe you're not showing up as the king of your home, or maybe your health is taking a knock and you keep taking knocks right now, and you don't feel the progress that you want to, and you feel frustrated, I absolutely get it. You probably feel like you're not cut out for it, but that's your inner voice. That's the negative gremlin that's trying to stop you, because you absolutely are. You are cut out for this. You just haven't seen the rewards yet. But that does not mean you are not progressing. Every coach, every consultant, every business owner, every founder, every director that I've ever worked with has gone through something like this. They have a season or a chapter or a period of time where they nearly gave up. And they all thank themselves for not giving in, for not stopping, for not quitting, for keep persevering. You're always going to hit those curveballs, but it's how we handle the pressure and the decisions that we make when we're under it that form the success of our mission. For example, if you look at Johnny here, he overcame that huge boundary of missing out on time with his daughter Charlotte, and he flipped the script, and he is a super busy, successful guy. And this particular video here talks about not being burnt out, but starting to align yourself with the right mission. And if you want to get this to the next level, then in the description, there is some additional training. But also, if you would like to come and work with us and our community of business owners, leaders, and high performers, just go to my Instagram page and comment ready. I've put the link in the description for you.